Here, in the fourth week of Advent, the stage is set for all that is to come during our celebration of Christmas. But what did we learn today? What do we know from the good news? Yes, we hear about Jesus and his coming at the beginning, the setup. But actually today's reading, this gospel, is mostly about Mary and Joseph. The stage is set. Mary. Though the reading is mostly about Joseph, it is in response to the reality of what is happening to Mary. And we know that the greatness of Christ on the cross is foreshadowed by the greatness of this small, simple woman, probably no more than a girl, who found herself pregnant. Yes, through the Holy Spirit, but pregnant nonetheless, in a society which did not accept or tolerate pregnancy outside of wedlock. In fact, it's punishable by death. Parallel to that fear would have come the shame visited upon her, not necessarily felt by herself, by others who would have rejected this pregnancy, even as Joseph didn't. But mostly we see her faithfulness, that she heard the voice of God through the angel and said, "Let it be done to me according to your will." Mary's fiat, her great yes. We know that this is the backdrop to what we hear about Joseph today. Joseph, in the few lines we have about him across the Gospels, reprises many of the themes that we know of Joseph from the Old Testament, the Joseph of Genesis, that he encountered God or his messenger in a dream, that he was involved in going to Egypt, and that he saved his family, Joseph, his brothers, Joseph too, Mary and Jesus. And in the story in the Old Testament, Pharaoh seems to be replaced by Herod in the New Testament, who is threatened by this newcomer, who kills the firstborn males of the Hebrews, and who fails in the attempt to take the life of the one he fears is coming to replace him. Moses and Jesus. In the gospel, Joseph is described today as a man of honor. It translates what is literally an upright man, one who is conformed to the law of God, somebody who represents the supreme standard of holiness. Joseph is a truly holy man, according to the Scriptures. And because of this, and though he embraces the law of Israel, he does not want to see harm come to Mary, which is why when he was planning to leave her, he was going to do it quietly. This upright man who is only trying to do the will of God encounters the angel in a dream. And God then breaks into his world in a new and unpredictable way. Joseph, in just a few verses, is shown to be the true and pious believer, the true hero of the story we hear today, an icon, an image of what we are all called to be. Joseph teaches us to live in fidelity to all that we cling to, all that we believe, and yet still be open to the mysterious presence of God that upsets all of our categories and calls us perhaps to something radically new. Joseph's fiat, Joseph's great yes, mirrors the fiat of Mary herself. Both say yes to the inconceivable. Both say yes and put their trust in God. Jesus, the third player in today's story, his name means Joshua. Jesus is the Greek, Joshua is the Hebrew. And it means God or Yahweh saves, or is salvation. And you shall name him God Saves. The angel goes on to say something even more remarkable. That this saving will be salvation from sin in the person of the child that is to come. The angel is announcing that Jesus is God. In the Old Testament, any such reference would speak to the power of God alive in the world, the power of God alive in certain actors. What Matthew tells us today is that the very saving action of God is the child who is to come. Jesus, God saves. The angel does say this child will perform the divine act of salvation. And thus, Matthew calls upon the reading we had, the first reading from Isaiah, where he references the child to come as Emmanuel. When I was a child, I always wanted to stand up at church when this reading was read to say, Jesus is not Emmanuel, it's not the same name. But Matthew is saying that it is, and that it's not a non sequitur. Emmanuel, God is with us. That the child to come, who is the salvation of God, is God present with us. It's not a non sequitur. The angel says to Joseph, as he said to Mary, as we hear Jesus say in his ministry, do not be afraid. For Joseph, the fear could have been the fear of scandal at Mary's situation, or ultimately the fear of his own unworthiness to be part of God's scheme in this way. For us, the challenge, as it was for Joseph, is to see that God works in mysterious and sometimes incomprehensible ways in our world and in our lives, that God speaks to us, calling us to give birth to the very love of Jesus in our hearts and to show it forth in our lives, to proclaim the saving, healing message of Jesus in our world. The angel said to the two heroes of our story, Mary and Joseph, do not be afraid, just as the scriptures proclaim to us. Open your hearts and do not be afraid.